Today we're going to be talking about editing your best dynamic moments on PhotoDirector. My name is David and I'm going to be your instructor. Today, what we're going to be going over is first turning video into incredible multi-exposure shots. And then we'll talk about creating an animated GIF with video to photo tool. And then we'll talk about creating vibrant motion stills. And then we'll also talk about adding motion to your photos with motion blur and frame effects. So let's go ahead and jump right in. And let's look at what we're first going to do. We're going to be working with a multi-exposure shot. So we're going to basically be creating something that looks like this. So I'm going to open up PhotoDirector. And for any of you that are new to PhotoDirector, I first just want to tell you guys a little bit about the library tab. This is a great place to access all your photos on your PC, so you can just get to work directly on them. We're going to be working with these photos a little later. But since we are actually going to be doing a photo or a video to photo project, we're actually going to come down to the bottom here. It's the import button. And we're going to click on that. We're going to go video to photo. And that's going to allow us to import a video. And we're going to use this video right here. And when we open a video after it's imported, we have a lot of options on what we can choose to do. What we're going to do is we're just going to click on compose a multi-exposure photo. Click on that. And now what we have here is basically our multi-exposure tool. What we can do is just play the video. Okay, great. And then if we want, right here is actually a trim button. We don't really need to do it for this one, but if you have longer clips and you only want to work with a little bit of the video, this is a great place where you can just come in, move the markers, and then just click over the trim. And you'll be able to just use that section of the video opposed to having to work with the whole video itself. So I'm going to actually go back to the beginning. And right here, we have these two buttons. This is how we're going to create our multi-exposure. The auto right here is going to automatically go in and create points for you to use. I'll just click on it right here so you can see what happens. And this is basically just so you can automatically capture everything. I'm not going to do it on this one because I actually want to go in and choose my frames. But you can just enter your frames here and it's going to automatically go in and create marks for you and pull the images. What I'm going to do is actually come in here and choose the frames of the video I want to use to create stills out of. So I'm going to just go ahead and find my first one. That looks pretty good. I'm going to go over here to what looks like a little camera button. And this is just a capture button. If I just capture it, I go ahead and create a little yellow marker right there. So this is how I know this is where I've captured the frame from. And it's going to create a still up here for you to see. So I'm just going to keep going and create another moment I want to capture. Let's see. That looks pretty good. Great. So this is just a good way to see kind of where you're at in your project. Just keep going, maybe like right there. Capture again. Keep going. Capture it again. Just do maybe two more. That one. And do that. Okay. The other thing I want to talk about before moving forward is also we have this True Theater enhancement. This is a great way just to quickly, just one click, and it's going to make your photos, in most cases, look a lot better. So let's just take this right here. It's going to show us the original video, what it looked like. And now we're going to let it go, and we're going to see, oh yeah, it brings out the color, and it adds a little bit of saturation, and makes it look a little nicer. So we're just going to go ahead and keep that checked. Then we're going to go to this Go to Library. And this is going to go ahead and pull all of our stills into our library. When you do this, you want to make sure that you have a folder set up just for your images. It's not going to be too big a deal when you're only working with 5 or 6, but if you're working with like 100 frames, if you aren't careful, you're going to just put them anywhere and it's going to save 100 photos directly onto your computer. So if it's like on your desktop, that's going to be really annoying. So just go ahead and make sure you click here and select the folder that you want to put them in. I've already created one for it. So I'm going to go ahead and click import. It's going to import all my photos. Okay, so this is just, that's the first step. Now we're on to the second. And in this one, it kind of just lets you go through and make sure you want to select all the frames you've selected. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down to the bottom, and from the first to the last, I'm just going to click on the first one all the way over, and then shift left click on the last one. And I'm going to hit start. That's going to allow me to go in and select my subject. Select this whole area. So this is the guy I want to. I'm just going to hit this check mark right here. What it's going to do is it's going to analyze all the other photos, and it's going to capture each of those. It's going to capture my subject in each of those images. It's not necessarily always perfect, but it's usually pretty close. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go in and make sure it's always around my subject. So it looks like almost all the other ones are just spot on. Great. Then the only other step you need to do is hit merge. It'll take just a few seconds to process, and then you have a multi-exposure shot. What's cool about this is you actually have a few options of things you can do with it. So the first thing I want to look at is the blending. So this allows you to fade it in. So as you can see, the beginning subject, the first figure from your multi-exposure, is pretty opaque. It's pretty see-through. It's transparent. And it goes all the way to being very solid. We can also go with a fade out. That's cool. But I think I prefer the fade in. And then you can also change the number of frames. So yeah, I have 6, but I can go ahead and go back to 2. Or I could go to 4. Or I could just leave it with 6. And I think I like that. So now that I'm done, I can just go to Save To. It's going to allow me to save my multi-exposure directly onto my computer. All right, great. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. So the next thing we're going to look at is going to be another multi-exposure shot, but we're going to make it into a GIF, an animated GIF. So yeah, we had a still image, and now we're going to look at animated GIFs. And if you guys aren't aware, right now we're currently having a contest called Dynamic Moments, where you can actually submit animated GIFs. So this could be a good way for you to enter a really cool video you have, but that you create into an animated GIF. So let's take a look at that. So I'm just going to go and clear this. Go back to my library. I'm going to go back down to import, video the photo. So you pretty much, for this one, you're going to start out just the exact same way you did with your multi-exposure, because we're creating the multi-exposure, but then we're going to animate it. So we're going to go down to compose a multi-exposure photo. And I'm going to go ahead and use the trim tool just to show you guys. So as you can see, this video is pretty long, and I only really want this first jump from this first rider. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the end. Pull it back just a little bit. Pull my marker back and trim, and hit OK. So now my video is the length I actually want to work with. And I'm going to go ahead and turn on the True Theater enhancement, because I think it just, for the most part, usually makes the videos and photos look better. Now I'm going to go ahead and do this again manually. Click here. As you can see, the marks are being created again. Just keep going. Okay, sorry, just give me a second. Just do 1 or 2 more. So that way we can have a good number to do a couple fun things with. I think that's pretty good. All right, and again, we'll go to the library. This is just going to pull the stills directly into our library. But first we have to, again, create a folder to save the images into. Go ahead and import. Great. And so again, I like all these images. So I'm going to just go down here, left click with your mouse on the first image, though it should already be selected, and then go to the last, hold down Shift, left click, and hit Start. Now, again, we're going to have to capture and analyze these. So let me go ahead and select him. And go ahead and click on the check mark, which is going to confirm and analyze. This works pretty quickly for what it's doing. Okay, now we just want to go through and check all of our subjects, all of our boxes. That looks pretty good. Well, it looks pretty good. We just want to pull this back in a little bit. All right, this one got off a little bit, but that only takes a second to fix. Let's go on to the next one. All right. Two more. So this one didn't work quite as well as the first one, I think, because just the colors are a little too similar on our subject and the actual background colors around him. But still, it doesn't take too long to create this. Okay, and then we're just going to go ahead and click merge. Just give it a few seconds. Okay, great. And we have a still photo, but now we actually just want to go ahead and click on animated GIF right here. That's going to animate it for us, and we can take a look just by hitting play so we can preview it. This will take a couple seconds just for it to create the preview for you. That looks pretty great, but I just want to show you guys a couple different features you can use, a couple different tools you can use. And Jen, I think you're asking if PhotoDirector has a trial version. Yeah, it does. If you just go to cyberlink.com, you can get a trial. All of our products, for the most part, have trials. So if you just go on over to cyberlink.com, you can check it out, try it out. I'm going to close that. So the first thing I'm going to look at is number of frames. So this actually right here, again, will let you control the number of frames. So maybe you got too many and you want to do a few less. So let's just look at 6. So yeah, it's a little different. I think I actually prefer with all of them, but I think I want to change the trail length. So actually I want to see him the whole time. So from the beginning to end, I want to see a trail. And let's take a look at what that looks like. Just give this a second. All right, maybe I do like the 3 better. So I'll go back. Actually, let's change the frames per second just so you guys can see what that's like. So when we change that, it's going to speed it up. See, so it's like he's really quick. So you have a lot of control of how you want your multi-exposure GIF to work. I want to go back to 3 and maybe slow it back down. And I think this is what I prefer, just for my taste. So once you preview it and you're happy with it, go ahead and just go over to save. And you can control the image size, and you can just save your GIF directly to your computer. It's that easy and that quick. So yeah, now that that's saved, we'll just go on back. Continue. Library. Let's take a look at what we're going to look at next. So we just did that. Now we're going to look at motion stills. So motion stills are really cool. It's just taking a video and selecting a certain area and basically allowing that to be animated and moving, and the rest of it is still. So we'll take a look at that real quick. So again, we're going to go down to import, video the photo. We're going to go in and choose highway here. And then instead of going over the multi-exposure, we're just going to go ahead and click on the create motion stills. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and trim this because this clip's pretty long, if you can see. I don't need that much because it's a lot of repetition, right? It's the same thing kind of over and over and over. So I'm just going to go and bring that back. I think I only need about 20 frames. You could easily do the whole thing, but it's going to take a little longer to process and everything. And since we only have a limited amount of time, I'm just going to take about 20 frames. Click OK. And I just want to show you guys this. On this one, I'm not a huge fan of the True Theater enhancement. A lot of times it makes it look better, but I prefer the darkness in this because it's night and I think it works. So instead of doing the frame by frame capture, manual capture, I'm just going to go ahead and do it auto because I want every single frame because I want to see the motions of the cars. So I'm going to go ahead and click start. As you see, it just goes through and creates all your marks, creates all your stills for you. And once you've done that, you can just go down to go to the library again, and it's going to pull all your stills in. And again, make sure you have a folder set up. This time it's getting it into 20. So as you can see, as you create more complicated projects, the more stills you're going to have, and the more important it's going to make sure that you're putting them in the folder that you actually want to put them in. All right, so we're importing right now. Okay, great. And then just like the multi-exposure, we're just going to select all the frames that we want. So I'm going to go to the end and hit click on that with Shift. Click next. Okay, awesome. Okay, and so unlike creating multi-exposures in motion stills, you're going to actually choose the frame you want to be your background. So as you can see, I can just go through here and choose. And since I'm going to use these tracks, I'm not going to be so worried about those as these are going to be animated. And this is going to be my background. So this is really what I'm looking at to create the best looking background. And I mean, they all look pretty similar. I'll just go with this one. I don't know why, just like it. And then I'm going to click next. All right, now this is the most important step here. And this is going to be actually creating a mask for your motion still. And what you're going to do is come over here and use the brush tool. You can actually change the size of your brush right here, just going up and down. Choose that. And you're just going to go over here and you'll get this red. So this is the part that's going to create, or this is the part that will have motion throughout the whole GIF that you're creating. So kind of taking my time. I don't need to. One good thing is you can kind of go a little quick because you can always pull out the brush to take away. So this is creating, right? You can erase the mask as well, which I'll show you in just a minute. But let me go ahead and just fill this all in. See if I need to go back and erase any, but I think I'm doing the right job. Just come here, do this section. I might want to erase a little bit of that because we're getting a little over the edge. So right here, you can actually switch. And now you see a little negative sign, a minus sign opposed to the plus. You just come in here and clean that up. All right, let's go back and let's actually make this smaller for the top bridge that we want to go over. And I just want to say for the motion stills, a lot of the times it's best to use a static camera shot. Otherwise, it's not going to look as good. Your mask isn't going to be in the same spot. So for motion stills, I highly recommend that you use a static camera when shooting your video to create them. Just keep going over this. Sorry guys, this takes a little bit of time. It's the longest part of the process. But I totally think it's worth it in the end. Okay, let me go and switch over to this. Just clean this up a little bit. It's not too bad. All right, so once you have the area you think you want to have motion in it, you're going to go ahead and preview and just take a look and see what it looks like. It'll take about a minute or two, depending on the number of frames. So it's just going to, yeah, we'll just get a little bit of time. Let's see if there's any questions. I haven't been answered. Oh yeah, and I don't know if you've seen this, but there's a link right now in the text chat where you can click and go ahead and check out our Dynamic Moments contest. So go ahead and check that out if you want. Oh, and let's check out this preview. So it looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. You can always close out and then fix anything that you think might be wrong with it or anything. But I just want to show you one other feature in this, which is you can actually add text directly to your GIF. So we'll just say night traffic. And I mean, you can affect the text color, border color, the font size, the opacity, and even the shadow. So you can control where the shadow is. You can control the placement just by coming over and grabbing it. One thing you want to make sure you do when you're doing this, though, is you're going to want to go over, hover over it, and right click and copy to all frames. If you don't copy it to all frames, it's just going to be on the frame that you're putting the text on. So you want to go ahead and copy to all frames. So that way you have a title across your whole motion still. So we'll just take a look at what this looks like. And here's the thing about the text tool is you can actually go in and edit your text on every single frame. So for example, you could come in here and like make it grow, or you can make it go and like become transparent, or a lot of things. It's not necessarily the best thing because you'd have to go frame by frame because you're essentially creating a stop motion with the text. I'd much more likely recommend adding titles through like PhotoDirector to your video. But if you just want to just come in here and actually edit your text frame by frame, you can. So let's go ahead and preview what this looks like. So just take a minute. Make sure there's any other questions. All right, so this is taking just a little bit longer probably because the added text. Should be done here in a sec. All right, great. All right, I'm just going to show you guys something real quick, just so you guys know about it. You can also, if we come here and import video to photos, we'll just grab the waterfall. We'll just grab this real quick. Just want to show you guys this. You can actually create animated GIF files. So straight from a video file, we'll just make this kind of short. You can go and just pull this back. I'm going to trim it real quick. Okay. And click audio. We'll just use 30. This is a good way of just creating an animated GIF from a video. I know it's a pretty popular thing to take a video and just turn it into a GIF so you can share it on places like Reddit and things like that. So this is a really easy, quick way to do that. Once we have it done, we'll just go to video. Again, you want to make sure you have a file set up to save all your stills. Because really what this is creating is a thing called an image sequence. And what an image sequence is a collection of images that when you put it together, it creates motion. And so, yeah, so we have this already. And we're going to go ahead and, let's see. Just going to go ahead and check out the GIF. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. So you can easily take a video and turn it into a GIF in probably, what was that, like a minute or two? So if you guys like animated GIFs, this is a really cool way to do it. Really quick, really easy. All right, and again, if you guys want to go check out the Dynamic Moments contest, we're allowing for GIFs to be entered this time, which is pretty cool. I think it's a pretty rare thing that we allow that. So sorry, just going to jump back up. And then the last thing I want to look at is actually editing your still photographs, your dynamic still photographs. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at motion blur and adding frame effects. So we'll go back to our library. Open up the library and we're going to go to our pictures. Again, this is a great way just to access your photos. Everything is available just right here. And before we go and add the motion blur and the frames, I want to just show you guys something. We do have all these adjustment tools like cropping, exposure, contrast, a lot of ways to just make the colors in your photos pop, and just kind of cool little adjustment tools just right here under this tab. I'm not going to go too much into that. I know our last webinar was hosted by Steven, who did a great job and really showed a good way of adjusting your photos to make the colors pop. So if you want to check out our past webinar and you get a little bit more into the adjustment tools, go check that out. I highly recommend it. But what I want to show you guys right now is our blur tool. There's a couple different ways you can use our blur tool. We have a circular, a linear, and actually a brush. For this photo, I'm actually going to use the linear tool. You have a lot of control with this. And right now what we're doing is we're affecting it with soft focus. So we're creating this soft focus. But because we're talking about dynamic moments, we actually want to go to motion blur. And what this is going to do is kind of create like a feeling of movement, right? When you have a camera and there's movement that's really quick, you get this like blur that's created by motion. And so that's what we're kind of simulating here. So we're just going to pull this out. And I just wanted to put a motion blur on these two guys right here. So I'm actually going to go ahead and turn this so I can really kind of put it over the part of the photo I want. So I'm just going to make these guys motion blurred, pull this out a bit, look down. And you actually, this line right here is for feathering. So you can actually feather the motion blur. I'll kind of do that. I think that looks pretty good. So now we're just creating this, like these guys are motion, these guys are a little bit more static. You can actually affect the direction of the motion blur. Funny enough, I think the direction it already was is kind of the way it looks the best. So when you're done with that, you just hit this back button right here. And what we do, instead of actually editing your photo, we create temporary files, right? So we aren't actually editing your original photo. So you don't have to worry about saving multiple copies. It's just going to save directly in PhotoDirector. So you don't have to have like a million versions of the same photo on your computer, which is a little different from a lot of editing softwares. I really like that feature. And we're going to go over the layers. So this is a little bit of a newer feature within PhotoDirector. So if you've been using PhotoDirector for a long time, you may not have used layers as much, but we're going to go to add express templates. And this is a great way of getting frames and other overlays and things like that. We're going to go down. As you can see, there's a lot of different options. All these are available within PhotoDirector 365, or if you have Ultra, you can just buy certain packs if you just want to have only certain ones. But this is like our comic packs, but we're going to actually go to our lines and shapes and grab this frame that I really like. This one right here. Click OK. And as you can see, it's a little different from the photo you saw originally because it has a bunch of different layers. And the great thing is you can actually choose which layers you want. So I don't want text on this image. I just want it to be an image. So I'm going to get rid of that. Just delete it. And I'm just going to make sure I like all these other elements that it's added. And another thing about these elements is they're all resizable. So say I have a more square that image that I'm going to use for like Instagram. I can go ahead and make it more square. But it was actually the perfect ratio here. So yeah, that's a really easy way to add a little motion blur in frames. I'm going to go ahead and just show you guys one more little thing. So I can go ahead and save that. Just let that save. Let's see if there's any other questions. Okay. So the last thing I'm going to show you guys is with this image. So I'm going to show you actually how to do the motion blur with the brush tool with this, and also a new set of frames that we have in the latest release of 365. So one reason I recommend getting PhotoDirector 365 is throughout the year we have new releases. It's about 3 times a year, and you can't get these with Ultra or Ultimate. Only 365, you're going to have multiple releases every year, so you always have the most up-to-date version of PhotoDirector. So I'm going to go to Edit. I'm going to go and show you the Blur tool real quick with the brush. So we're going to go ahead and do the full motion blur. And we're going to actually affect the degree. So one thing that's really nice about this is I can really control how much of a blur I'm getting. All I want to do is just kind of create a little bit of blur behind him. Too much. And then I'm going to use my tool right here, my brush tool, just like in the motion stills. And I'm going to go over him. And this is going to make him solid. Solid. right? And so it gives a little, it makes it feel like there's a little motion. Though it was a very static image, now we have this feeling of movement just from a little bit of motion blur. And again, you can move your direction and everything. So this is just like a really cool tool to just bring your photos a little bit more alive, make them a little bit more dynamic. So we're going to go back and I'm going to show you our new frame templates in PhotoDirector. So this just came out about a month ago. It's a bunch of new frame templates that we have. Just let this process. And right here, under frames and watermarks, you can just click right here. We have a great new collection of frames. We even have geometry frames. All right, and so for this one, I'm just going to use this frame right here, Inspire. But I could choose a lot from a lot of different ones. They're really cool. I really like them. But this one for me just feels right with this image. And yeah, and you can also zoom it in and out so you can actually make it work a little bit better. So I'm going to zoom a little bit out. Actually go up just a little bit. So yeah, looks great. So go ahead and just go back and say yes. So the last thing I just want to tell you guys is after you get done editing, if you want to save this exact photo to your computer, let's just finish processing just a second. We're just going to go to File, Save As. So we go to File, Save As. We can actually save this version of the photo to our computer. So you only save the versions that you like. I see Craig just asked about mobile apps. And yeah, we have mobile apps. For Android, we have both PhotoDirector and PowerDirector. On Apple, we have just PhotoDirector. So check those out in the app stores. So just to kind of overview what we went over today, we got to see how to make a multi-exposure shot, motion stills, and how to use motion blur and frame effects. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the webinar, and thank you so much for joining.